Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marvelous Movie Mondays with Dylan and Kelsey. Oh wait, I totally flipped that. Sorry about that. With Kelsey and Dill, I can't
Yeah.
say the name wrong. It's an early day for me today. I know it seems late to Kelsey because we're recording this in the afternoon, but I'm in the middle of Tech Week for a show, which is for people who do theater know it is exhausting, and
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
means it's late hours. You're getting home late at night, eating dinner at like midnight. It's a lot, but I'm here. I'm excited talking about Miss Marvel episode Deuce, Dua,
Yeah.
2, Dose. A lot of stuff to talk about, but first, let's get to some Marvel news. Kelsey, what is your news? You seem like you're really pondering something right now.
Oh, because you started saying "two" in a bunch of different languages, and I was like, "I think I know what 2 is in French." So I was like, "Un, deux, trois." I think it's "deux"
Trois?
in French.
Oh,
No,
okay.
"trois" is 3, 'cause
Oh,
"un"
un,
is
deux,
1.
trois. Okay, okay, okay,
"Un,
okay.
deux, trois."
Gotcha.
Anyway, that's the only
Anyway,
French
Kels,
I
what
know.
what is your news of the week, Kels? I'd
Well,
love
first
to
of
know.
all, I wanna apologize for my audio quality or lack
Oh, that's
thereof.
fine. That's fine.
All my stuff is in New York in my apartment, and I'm at my home in Jersey right now.
Mm.
So I am just
Yeah, she
we're
she
going
wanted
off the
the
rails
she
here.
wanted the authentic Jersey experience talking about this Jersey City show, you know? She wanted to be uh in the
Exactly. The
ambiance
atmosphere,
of
the
yes, yes.
environment, really
The
capturing it all
the
right now.
yes, yes.
So I have some bit of news. This episode came out, I think, like 2 weeks ago. So technically, we should have talked about it last week if we were going to talk about it at all. But the assembled episode for Moon Knight came
Oh.
out. So I
Oh, cool,
watched
cool.
that. And it was super cool, super interesting. You know me, I love to go behind the scenes and, see how the sausage gets made, if you will. And two key two of the most interesting things that I thought, went into the making of Moon Knight was to talk about the costumes and how like detailed and specific and just like how much thought goes behind each and every character, like we as an audience, like, we just see the final product and sure, we can, like, determine we're like, "Oh, that looks good," or "That doesn't look good," and that looks super cool, but, like, there's just so much more details and precision and all that jazz that goes into it, so I just wanted to, shout out these costume designers, because they're really, really amazing, and what I thought was interesting was at some point during the documentary, Oscar Isaac told us that the 2 costumes for Mark and Steven were going to be switched at the beginning. So
Huh.
Mr. Knight, the suit, was originally going to be Mark's, alter ego, and Moon Knight with the cape and the hood and everything was
Mhm.
going to be Steven's. And I thought
Ah,
that that was
okay.
so interesting because now we watched the whole show and we're like, "No, it's so obvious that Steven should get the suit. Like, why wasn't that just immediate from the beginning of the whole
Yeah.
process?" And it's because another fun fact, Stephen Grant wasn't always going to be British. That was a choice Oscar Isaac made when he read the
Oh,
script, and
very
he just
cool.
kinda started toying around with this, like, accent and these mannerisms for Stephen Grant, and they were like, "Oh, like, so now that Stephen is kinda just like this really, like,
Bumbling, yeah.
yeah, this
British,
English
nervous,
bloke,
yeah, yeah.
he should absolutely get the suit, and it was just so interesting hearing them then take that idea that came from Oscar Isaac and really run with it because they were like, "You know what? And this is the kind of suit Steven would wanna wear."
Wow,
So,
that's very
yeah,
interesting. That's a cool tidbit.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Another part of the, documentary, I guess, episode that I thought was really interesting was hearing May Kalamawi. She was the actress who played Layla. I'm
Mhm.
probably butchering that pronunciation. I apologize. But hearing her talk about like her take on Layla and what she really wanted for the character of Layla, I felt was just so important because she
Yeah.
made a point to say like I didn't just want Layla to be, serving a man's storyline,
Yeah.
whether it was for Mark or her father. Like she really wanted Layla to like have her own person, be her own
Be her own
person,
person.
like
Yeah, yeah.
have her own storyline, her own character development, her own arc. And I really think that that like really, you know, translated in
Oh,
watching the
for sure.
show. Like because, Layla instantly became like a hero within herself, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
she instantly became one of our favorite characters by the end of this show. So I really think that she stuck the landing, and she should be proud of the work that she did on Moonlight.
That's right. Yeah, really great insider info. I love how you bring that to the table when those episodes come out. I need to get back to watching some of those. Just so much stuff to watch. I'm I'm
Mhm.
actually I just
Yeah.
dove into Mad Men for the first time, and I
Oh,
freaking love
yeah?
it. I think it's one of the best series ever made. But then I'm also like in How I Met Your Mother rewatch mode. I'm also trying to finish Severance, which I started like a whole month ago. And then all the Marvel stuff, obviously, and stuff for the channel, like Picture This movies and all that stuff, and Obi-Wan.
Mhm.
There's so much.
Mhm.
And that's one of the problems with modern viewing is that, like, it's not like it used to be where it would be like there was one movie in theaters for the whole month and you went and saw it like two or three times in that month or once that month. Now it's like there's like two or three movies coming out a week. And on streaming and all that stuff. And by the time you're listening to this, everyone, my favorite movie of Sundance and my favorite movie of the year so far is now on Apple TV Plus. Cha Cha Real Smooth. Go watch it. It is so freaking excellent. Cooper
Interesting.
Rafe's second sophomore film. But my news, another indie director, speaking of Cooper Rafe, Destin Daniel Cretton, who did Short Term 12 and recently did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, just announced yesterday that they are doing a Wonder Man series for Marvel, and he is directing it. So we knew that he was going to get a project, a series of some sort. Some people were speculating if it would be a Shang-Chi series or if he would do
Mm,
his own series. No one knew what it was, and it was announced yesterday. It was going to be a Wonder Man series. Not yesterday, on Thursday. It was announced it was going to
sure.
be a Wonder Man series. So we're getting a Wonder Man series. I don't know anything about Wonder Man,
Mm,
but the head writer is Andrew Guest, who also was the head writer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community. So maybe something a little
mm.
more comedic. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure though. It's very interesting to see. I'm glad he's getting more work in the Marvel franchise. I do like his other
Yeah.
work as well. I hope he gets back to that as well. That's one thing I sometimes don't love about the Marvel lexicon of directors is sometimes they take them and then they hold on to them. And I like when they get to
Sure.
release them back into the world. Even like John Favreau, yeah, he got to break away from Marvel, but he's still doing big stuff for Disney, like Jungle Book and Lion King. Like it's nice to see people like Taika Waititi go back and do like Jojo Rabbit,
Sure.
and Chloe Zhao being able to do Nomadland and Eternals at the same time. Like I like when they get to go back to their wheelhouse, but also get that really nice paycheck and deliver some fun on big screens for us. Speaking of Thor: Love and Thunder coming up real soon, we're gonna get tickets by the time we are airing this. We probably will have already gotten tickets, so we're excited to bring that to you. But let's get into the episode that we're here to talk about. Let's get into Miss Marvel
Yeah.
episode dose. I'm just not going to say the word TWO today because who wants to? Why should we settle for only one pronunciation and translation of a word when there's so many? Um,
Good
Kelsey,
point, Jill.
tell us about this episode.
Well said. Okay, so episode dose is titled Crushed. Crushed.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my synopsis. Let me just flip through to it real
I
quick.
While you're getting your synopsis, I can't
Yeah.
speak. I'm interested to see what your meaning of this episode title is. What it
Mm.
refers to. If it has a double meaning, maybe it is episode deux. Or unda duh
Unde.
episode duh unde episode de. So maybe there are more than one meaning. Because at
Mm.
first I was like, I know where this is going, and then
Mm.
I was like, oh, maybe it means this. So we'll talk about it. But you know, we'll talk
We'll
about it.
talk. We'll talk. Okay, so Kamala tries to work on her powers while her friend Nakia tries to create change within their mosque. Meanwhile, a new senior named Kamran comes to town and Kamala crushes on him, making Bruno jealous.
Uh, I said last week we don't talk about Bruno as a joke, but like for this podcast, can we really not talk about Bruno? Because Bruno freaking sucked in this episode. I am so annoyed. Okay, here's the thing.
Jill,
Here's the
how
thing.
could you?
We're gonna get into the episode recap, but I'm just gonna state my thoughts out loud here. I
Okay,
think
go
yeah,
ahead.
the style's still fun. The style's great. I love Kamala as a character or Kamala as a character. Um, but the Bruno stuff. The first episode, they made him such a sweet, endearing little kid that, like, we loved their relationship and all this stuff. But now they just made him this whiny, angsty teenager. And I get it, like, it's a commentary on society, whatever. But like, I just feel like it was such a 180 this character took. And I was infuriated with this kid. Like, granted, we've all been in those shoes of like the guy who's like has to watch your crush like someone else. I get it, but it's
In the
also
friend
like,
zone.
but it's like, it's like it's frustrating because I liked Bruno a lot, and Bruno really irritated me. And a few people did share this sentiment because I texted some friends about this episode, and I was like,
Mm,
Bruno's just annoying the hell out of me in this one. Um, and I was crushed because I was like, ah,
mm.
man, Bruno, you had so much going for you. And I get it. Like, young love, it's tough. But I was also like, ah, Bruno, stop being so annoying. Like in the car, we'll get to it. But I thought Bruno was very insufferable in this episode, rightfully so. But I was so frustrated because of course they were gonna go this route. I
Listen, Dill, I did point out in episode 1 that Kamala and Bruno shared a moment on that
know,
rooftop,
and they even
and
showed
you
it in the recap. They showed in the recap to
mhm.
make us remember it.
Yes, to remind us that, Bruno obviously likes Kamala more than a friend. And so,
Yes.
what, I felt for him this episode because, she's just like, "You're my buddy, you're my pal, like, relax, like, this is comrade, like, I'm into him now." And so, like, I understood where Bruno was
I
coming
think here's the
from.
problem. Here's the problem is that I think the show is gonna make it Bruno and Kamala, and I think that was kind of in the first episode they wanted us to like root for them. But when
Sure.
you make Kamran such a likable, charismatic, sweet guy,
Mm,
it makes it a lot harder to root for Bruno. And I think that's one of those things where in a
sure.
relationship, love triangle like this, if you make him kind of like an asshole, it makes it a little bit better. But in this case, because Kamran is so likable, Bruno comes across as kind of like the asshole in the car, because Kamran's not doing
Mm.
anything wrong. And we get that little tease at the end of the episode, which we'll talk about. But like, I've yet to doubt Kamran. I've yet to see a red flag. And I think that's the problem is that it's very, he's just so nice that it's hard because it's kind of like that movie The Half of It that I really really like. It's like this love triangle, but
Oh,
they
okay.
make
I
it
know what
so
you're talking
all
about.
all sides are like rightfully conflicting with one another, but they're also you like all the sides of the relationship, and it never gets too petty. This one I felt like it was very much like they wanted to push Bruno in episode 1, but now in episode 2, Kamran is such like a great person character that now Bruno just like stands out as a sore thumb. I don't know. Um,
Sure. No, I get what
we'll
you're
talk about
saying.
it more, but I was so frustrated because I liked Bruno and I still like Bruno, but ah man, I hope they resolve that.
I just think that I have bigger issues. I have other issues with this episode than how Bruno is acting.
Great.
Um,
Yeah, I do think we both agree it was a little bit of a step down from the first
yeah.
one. But as most series, they'll either really start a little weaker and end really strong, like your Loki's, like some people thought with WandaVision, or it'll start so strong. And almost fizzle out, almost kind of like Moon Knight, where we liked Moon Knight as it went along, but like the first episode just was so great, and I feel like this is the same case where that first episode was just so great that like the next episodes it has to follow in some deep, big shoes. So,
Yeah.
but let's get into the recap because I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on some of the issues you had with the episode.
Sure. So post saving Zoe at the Avengers Con in the last episode and discovering her these powers, Kamala has like a newfound confidence. She walks into school, she corrects the teacher that's been calling her the wrong name. She's like, "By the way, it's Kamala and not this other shit that you've been trying to call me." And she goes up to her locker. She pushes the couple out of her way that's like shares their headphones together, whatever they're listening to, and
Yeah,
she pushes them out of the way and is like, "Hey, by the way, they're AirPods, so you don't actually have to stand that close to each other anymore." Um,
yeah,
and we
and
did,
I was
yes.
gonna say this
Go
is
ahead, Bill.
apparently Disney's first LGBT couple because every time they have the least bit, the bare minimum of gay representation or queer representation in their art, they like to claim that they've like rejuvenated cinema and television as like a medium, as an art form. And first of all, if it's so small and minute that you could easily cut it out to release it in China, I don't think it's
Mm,
enough. I really don't. I think there are bigger studios that are just as prominently seen as Disney that are really showing those LGBT themes in a more blatant light. Movies like Booksmart come to mind, where it's accessible for everyone, but the queer representation is front and center. It doesn't hide
sure.
away from it. I think Disney has the habit of being like, "Oh, did you see LeFou flirt with that guy at the end of Beauty and the Beast? Yep, he's gay. We got him, first gay character." And it's like,
Mm,
but there were some people that left that movie not even getting that, And yes, we
sure.
saw in Doctor Strange there was a gay couple, two parents, same sex couple, but like even then, like you could cut that out and still have the movie work as is. It's not like it's the central romance or anything. And that's just one thing that I hope Disney kind of does better with, especially with all the controversy with the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida and all that. Like, I really hope
Mhm.
that they've learned from this year, and just how, you know, outraged some people were. And it's Pride Month. Like let's go toward a more optimistic outlook of like, let's make it more than just a couple in the background that she has to be like, you know
Yeah,
especially because this
sure.
this is about a girl coming of age with her powers, like, why not make it about her sexuality as well? Why do these have to be two guys fighting over her? Obviously, if they want to keep it comic accurate, that's one thing, but it's like, there are so many different areas in the MCU even that I feel like they could open up for queer representation. I just think, because of Pride Month, I just wanted to bring it up because I do think it's a little bit like they're patting themselves on the back for doing the bare minimum, and I don't
Mm,
love that.
sure.
And we get this with Stranger Things too. I haven't seen it yet, the first part of this new season, but there's a lot of talk about like one character's sexuality, and one of the actors came out front about it and was like, I like how it's not said. I like how it's kind of interpreted. And I'm like, but we're in 2022,
Was it
like, let's
Millie
let's
Bobby
let's
Brown?
embrace it. No, it's not. It was not. It
Oh,
was. I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to
'cause
spoil which character may or may not be gay, even though they kind of alluded to it in the last season. But
there's a
um,
whole, like, bit on the internet that Millie Bobby Brown is homophobic, even though
oh
she's very well not. I mean, she very well could
yeah,
be. I don't know her personally,
yeah.
but,
I don't
like,
want to spread rumors, but
I think it's like a gag
yeah, no,
more
but
than
but but
anything.
but it's true. Like, I think like the characters. I get what these actors are saying. Like, oh, it's so great that we don't even have to like make it a big deal, but also like, if we're not making it a big deal, we're also not necessarily, condoning it and saying like it's okay to be loud and proud. I mean, this is Pride Month. We
Yeah,
should be more upfront about it. Like,
yeah,
I think, to have no representation at all is the worst thing, but to have representation but not overtly say it, I think is almost just as detrimental. But that's just my leftist liberal side coming through.
No, that's a
But
great point, too.
that moment just kind of like pissed me off. I was like, oh, like, these are background characters. Like, like, make them a more bigger focus. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they will
Did
be.
you watch, Better Nate Than Ever
I
on
did
Disney
not.
Plus?
No, is that the one with the
Oh,
Lilo and Stitch musical?
yes, that is
Okay.
exactly the one. Because the main kid in that is I mean, they never say it like you're
That's the
saying, they
thing.
never outwardly say it, but it's very much implied that he is gay,
But again,
the main
implication.
boy in it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
So, I
the
if you
baby
had seen
steps are
it,
being taken. The baby steps are being
yes,
taken. It's just they need to jump into the pool. They just need to do it.
yeah,
Especially in June. Now's the time. Anyway, continue with your recap. But that was my first mini rant.
amazing, loved it. And at eventually, she makes her way down the hall, she bumps into a boy. Now we get a little bit of a split second, like, ooh, this could be. I think this is the crush that the titular crush that this episode is referring to. And then we find out that Zoe is blowing up all over on the internet. She is using her quote unquote near death experience as clickbait, essentially, and is using it to gain followers and traction and attention and all these things. And she decides, oh, she gives Kamala the nickname of Nightlight. She's like, "Oh, what superhero saved you?" And she was like, "Nightlight." And I was like, "Lame.
It's dumb.
That's lame." And she decides to throw a party to celebrate. I think she said like the what was it? Like the I don't know, the uncertainty of life, if you
Ah,
will.
yes, which
And
is just a lame excuse for let's all get drunk together.
yes.
But I gotta say, it was a little confusing because at first when like Kamala was coming through the hallways, like all like like cool hot shit, I was like, oh, so like everyone now loves her because she's a superhero, and then it's like,
Mm,
no, she's just on a high, and everyone else
yes.
is praising Zoe, and I was like, yeah, it was interesting. So I guess no one realized who she was.
Mm-mm.
Okay, gotcha. It
No.
was it was just a little confusing because when she walks in, you think like, oh, okay, so she's like the cool kid at school now, and like, that would have been an interesting direction to go on, like seeing what
Yeah.
popularity does to someone,
Sure.
because we're used to seeing all these adults getting these powers, and they're adults, so they know how to like kind of manage their powers. But like, what happens when a kid gets their powers? Do they kind of get an ego? Do they get a little uh popular? They let it get to their head?
Yeah.
And I would have loved to see that, but we obviously didn't. Because it was just her own little world that she was celebrating in, I guess.
Yeah, the only person who knows,
Is Bruno.
as far as my understanding, is Bruno.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
it's just and that's just, like, adding to it, like, they have this fun little secret together. I'm
Yeah.
the only one who knows, I'm the only one she trusts to know,
Yeah,
so,
so I'm gonna be a dick in the car to this guy who's really harmless. Um
alright, we'll get there. So, she decides to throw this party, and Kamran just happens to be walking by, and she's like, "Oh, you're the new senior, right? Come to my party tonight. It's gonna be great." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And so Kamala overhears that and is like, "I gotta get to this party. I gotta get my ass to this party because I gotta hang out with this boy." So we get our Miss Marvel intro, very fun.
Mhm.
Um, so Kamala shows Bruno her powers backstage. They have another little itty bitty moment where she accidentally knocks a piece of the set over accidentally. She has to, jump jump to his rescue and save him. Um, and so then we go into our training montage. She's like, "Yeah, maybe I should work on this, try to figure this stuff out a little bit." And we go into our Rocky esque training montage,
Yes.
and she's really emphasizing on working on materializing these like steps that she can walk on, like kind of, midair so she can, scale buildings and essentially, walk in through the air. It's
Yeah.
very cool. And she gets the inspiration from Bruno, who's playing a video game where like his character is like hopping from one
Mhm.
platform to the
Yeah.
next. So she's inspired by that. She decides, you know what, that's gonna be my shtick. I'm gonna materialize platforms for me to walk on. Um, Bruno makes a discovery while they're doing this that the power is not just coming from the bangle, it's coming from within Kamala, and like the bangle is just helping her kind of like redirect it
Yeah.
and really harness
Release
it,
it.
which is
Yeah.
really cool. And so she's like, "Oh my god, am I Asgardian? Am I related to Thor?" And Bruno's like, "Slow your roll. I didn't say any of that, to be clear." So then they decide to call her like this materialization of light, essentially hard light. um, their ingenious creative name couldn't be better. Couldn't have come
Nightlight,
up with
hard
it
light.
myself. Yeah, a lot of there's a theme here happening.
Okay.
Um, so during this training montage, I did have to make a note of this moment where Bruno and Kamala have a kind of like Vormir-esque moment where Kamala is hanging off the ledge of what we think the roof of the building is, and Bruno is desperately trying to grab onto her. And she even says a line very similar to what Natasha said to Clint, which was, "You have to let me go." And then he does, and you find out that she was only like 2 feet off the ground and she just lands on like another section of the roof. But I was like, huh, a motif. I
Motif.
I see you, Marvel.
It's Vormir Jr. Yep.
Vormir Jr., really?
Lil Vormir. Lil Vormir with a little apostrophe. Lil. Lil
Lil
Vormir.
Vormir. Yeah. Um, so then we have this scene where Kamala and her friend Nakia go to the mosque to, pray, I suppose. Um, they have a whole process they have to do before they go into their place of worship. They have to wash their feet and their face and get all clean. Not, the faucets aren't really working. They have to
Mm.
share one sink. Part of the wall breaks off while they're doing this. And we find out that while they're praying, the men and the women are divided into like there's a barrier in between the men's section and the men are on the front, getting a great view of the sermon that's happening and everything, and the women are in the back. And they start to take notice, her and not Nakia start to take notice, like, our section of this building is literally falling apart. The walls are falling apart. The faucets
Yeah.
don't work. There's mold in the carpets. And plus, we can't really even see the guy who's, talking to us. Like, this
Right.
is totally unfair.
Yeah.
And they they say they say that they have the barrier to preserve their modesty and decency. And we also find out that they're once the I don't want to call it church. I only know like church terms, but
Right.
like
Right. Right.
once it's all over, they go back to get their shoes, and we find out that there is a mosque shoe thief, and Nakia gets her brand new Versace stolen. And I'm like, those are
Mm.
good shoes. I'm really sorry
Yeah.
that those
Yeah.
were taken from her.
Yeah, this was a very
Um,
interesting scene, just like to see the
yeah.
culture, because I
Yes.
feel like that's one thing that I think Disney has been doing well recently is like showing these different like types of cultures, with the Egyptian culture, with Moon Knight and all that mythology here with this turning red and then that area of the world, like I really
Mhm.
like some of the different avenues they're exploring in that sense and the cultural backgrounds, which are very exciting to see. And we get more of later, especially with one little Easter egg reference to Eternals, which we'll talk about a little later.
Mhm,
But yes.
mhm. So then where am I in my notes? Oh, yes, there's a new position. There's a new position of the board on the board of the mosque, and Kamala suggests that Nakia run for the position. Like be the change. Like she says, the change is here, the change is now, and the change is her. Because they want to make some changes in their mosque. They're tired of being like second class essentially in within their place of worship, which I think is very noble. Um, and and then one she gets home and her mother have this their making up moment where she's like, I'm sorry I snuck out. And she's like, all I really want is for you to be safe. And let me just say, and then she immediately asks to go to Zoe's house. And she's like, I know this is a really bad time, but like Zoe's having some people over and can I go? And her mom lets her. And let me tell you, if I was in high school and I was caught sneaking out, I wouldn't be allowed out of the house for the rest of the
Yeah.
year. Like her mom is fairly chill compared to others, I think.
Yeah, it was a big 180. But I mean, she did kind of lay out the rules. Though she was like, "I'm gonna be home at this time. I'm going with this person and this person. There's not gonna be drinking." Like she was very upfront, and I think her mom appreciated that honesty. Because I feel like when you do that first like big thing in high school that pisses off your parents, there's almost yes, there's like a risk of and a punishment to that, but also there's kind of like this mutual understanding of like, okay, I won't lie to you again. Like we're gonna be more on the same page going forward because I
Yeah.
realize how much I fucked up. I had that moment in high school. I'm not gonna say what it was, but I just remember after that, it almost kind of strengthened my relationship with like my parents and at the time my girlfriend's parents, like to say like, okay, this was wrong. We went behind your backs and did something. Let's all like now be all mature about it. And it was a big growing lesson for me. So maybe that was their moment. Like they've kind of like
Mm,
done the growing because of that last moment, and now she's even more trusting of Kamala because Kamala was able to own up to her mistakes and probably knows that if she does it again, then she's gonna be in some deep shit. So I don't know.
yeah, maybe, possibly.
Yeah.
I'm so curious as to what you're talking about, Dill.
Oh, I'll tell you off camera. It's just not. It's a story involving several people, so I don't want to like
Mm,
say other people's business on air. It's not just my story; it's
sure,
other people's story
sure.
to tell. So I'm not gonna say it, but I will.
Fair
I'll
enough.
talk. I'll tell you off air.
Amazing. Okay, so
Yeah.
then we get to the party. And this is when I took issue with the most, Dill, is because I
Okay.
felt like they they built up this party a little bit in our like cold open before we got our Miss Marvel intro, and it was like I thought it was going to be all about like her going to the party and hanging out with this guy. Like I just imagined that this scene was going to be way longer, but it was literally like 5 seconds they were at this party. Like Kamala showed up. Um, there's this random guy now in the friendship. There's actually two random guys. I just don't know what the other one's name was. There's one random guy who's with Nakia. His name is Miguel. She's like, he's hovering over me. I'm like, okay, so maybe Miguel's like into Nakia. Like, all right, I see what's happening here. But at the same time, I'm like, who the fuck is this? They didn't introduce this character well at all. I'm like, I've never seen this guy before. I don't care about his story. And he ends
Yeah.
up like in the car with them. Anyway,
Right.
so
I
then
mean, I feel like we all it's funny because Kelsey and I went to the same high school, so I feel like there's one person that comes to mind of just like if they were just like, "Oh, wait, when did they get here? Oh, yeah, okay, they're in the car, that's great." To I'm not gonna say their name on here either, but, like, it's funny because like, there are those friends that are just, like, a little quieter, and then you're like, "Oh, yeah, they're here," like, and we love them, they're great, but, like,
yeah.
they're not necessarily the main focus, but, like, we always love having them around, and it almost feels like
Is the person
that
you're
was
talking about someone that I used to really hate?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kelsey and
Yeah,
I are
I know.
spilling all our high school tea. Honestly, that's the thing I'm enjoying about Miss Marvel is like it's harkening back a lot of my own high school experiences to
Yeah,
where I
yeah,
can like
yeah, yeah.
air the dirty laundry on this podcast. Because honestly, we have a good consistent viewer base, but I don't know how many of our viewers or listeners are actually high school friends. So like, I don't know how much I actually want to say, but like, it's funny because like, yeah, like you'll just turn around, and you'll be like, oh, it's them. Um,
Oh, hey.
and I love them. They're such a sweet
No,
person. The
I've
person we're
also
talking
grown
about.
to love them as well.
Yes,
So,
but it's so funny because that's exactly what that reminded me.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh man.
it's a universal experience, really. Miss Marvel is
People who
capturing
didn't go
here.
to high school with us are probably like, "Oh, I want all the tea," but sorry,
It's
you're
really
not
not
getting
that
that.
juicy. You're not
No,
missing much. It's fine.
if we ever become so famous that we end up doing a live event show or whatever, and you want to like buy us a drink afterward and have us spill the tea, we will. But
For
on
sure.
public in YouTube for everyone to hear, no, we're gonna keep that so private. But
So an older, I'm assuming he was older because he was, offering drinks to everyone, but an older student comes over to their group and is like, "Hey, you guys want something to drink?" They're like, "Is it alcohol?" And he's like, "No, no, it's just orange juice." Kamala takes a sip. It's fully spiked with vodka, and Bruno has a little protective, like, "Hey, why would you do that, man?" moment, and I
which
know.
like, come
And
on.
but it's very funny because, like, seconds after she took one sip, she was like, "Am I drunk?" Like, it was
That's
very
real.
funny.
That's
Uh,
real.
yeah. So then we see that Kamran making, like, the boldest, like, introduction, in the world. He's jumping off of the roof of some kinda shed or guest house or something into the pool, and they're all, like, freaking out, like, "Oh my god, like, this guy's gonna really hurt himself." But, he does, like, a flip, lands in the pool, walks out all cool without his shirt on, and he's like, "Hey, like, you're standing on my shirt." And Kamala's like, "I can't form words right now. I can't even say my name." So then the party gets busted. And that's when I was like, "That's it? That was the whole party scene? Oh, okay. I guess we're running from the cops now." And Kamran comes in clutch because it turns out he has a car. And he's like, "Guys, I got a getaway car. Just like hop in." And that's when Kamala and Kamran really start to hit it off. They're discovering that they like the same movies, the same
Yeah,
actors. They're like, "Oh, you listen to this band? That's so
yeah,
cool. I listen to them too." And this is when Bruno's in the back seat, just like really, he's physically trying to wedge himself in
yeah.
between Kamran and Kamala, just being like, "Yeah, well, I watched that movie too. Thought it
Yeah,
was
listen,
cool."
it's relatable, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. And
Sure.
I will say this is where I found a really funny little Easter egg, and this is where they talk about Kingo from Eternals because they're talking about like famous Bollywood stars and stuff,
Hmm.
and it was like, oh yeah, that's right, Eternals is part of this universe, and Kingo has been like in every decade of them because he
Yeah.
just never ages, and he
Yeah.
pretend yeah. So I just thought there was a nice little callback. Those are the types of callbacks I like. It's very subtle. If you've
Yeah.
seen the other stuff, you'll get it and love it, but it's not taking away from the main narrative, which I like.
Yeah. Totally. Um, Kamran drops him off at, Bruno's convenience store, and he says goodbye to everyone. Like I said, there's two random guys there along with Nakia, Kamala, and Bruno. And he's like, "Bye, Nakia, bye, Miguel, bye, Brian." He fully calls Bruno Brian. And it's just very funny that, like, he's like, he knows my name. Is it Brian? Like, you
Does
know,
he though? Who
who
knows?
knows?
I don't think he
I thought
made that.
that
I
line
think
was
it was a
funny though.
mistake. Right, but I don't
Might have
think he
been an
meant any
honest
harm.
mistake.
Like, why would he do that? Because I don't think I really
Damn,
don't
you
think
are
this guy's.
really team Comron, Dill.
I am because like, has he done anything wrong? No, he's just a nice, caring guy. Like, he's a cool kid who's literally able to give people rides who aren't necessarily part of the cool crowd. Like that's pretty
Sure.
cool. And he's a new kid, so maybe right. He's one of the new kids, right?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
new
so
senior
maybe he's
in
not that
town.
popular, but still, like, yeah, I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a nice guy, and I don't know. I think Bruno's being a little tough on him.
I have my theories about Comron, but we'll get there.
If he turns out to, oh my god, it would just
So,
be so stereotypical Disney to just make him a villain. I don't know.
sure. Sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, and then Comron offers to give Kamala a
Driving
driving
lesson.
lesson. Yeah, because as Bruno points out in the car, she did fail. And she's like, "Great, thank you for that." And he's like, "Oh, I failed my first time too. You know what? I could teach you to drive, you know."
See,
And
that's what I'm
it's
talking about,
very
is
sweet.
Bruno's, like, making almost like, making fun of her and, like, well, she or, like, being snooty about it, but Kamran's
Mm,
just like, "No, it's okay, I failed too, it's gonna be fine." Like, there's just such a maturity difference that I
sure.
don't know. I'm looking at this from an older perspective, and if, like, these were my kids, I'd want her with Kamran hands down, but I don't know. But her parents seem to still love Bruno, so I don't know how it's gonna end up, but
Well, I would want Kamala to find herself before she
well, yeah, yeah,
was with
that's the
anyone.
best answer. You're correct. That is the right answer.
Thank you. So Kamala is just like head over here, heels in love. She can't believe like this guy is like really interested in her, is going to give her driving lessons. She has a whole little like musical moment where she lip syncs to "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes. It's very
Love that
fun.
moment, yeah.
Be my baby. Super fun. Um, and now we're back at school, and she's, lost in thought about Kamran. The bell rings and her nose starts glowing. And so now we're getting a little bit of a sense here that her powers are starting to like she's starting to lose control a little bit. She hasn't really like super manifested how she's supposed to be handling all
And
this.
she doesn't have the bangle, right? So this is
No,
all like
I think she wears it like all the time.
oh, okay, okay, that's why, okay.
That's what I thought at
I
least.
just don't know why she wouldn't take
Um
it off when she's in a public place where she doesn't wanna to have that happen, but I guess this is the first time this is happening, so
So then she runs to the bathroom. Nakia thinks that, she's in the middle of like a period panic moment. So she's like trying to hand her a tampon.
very sweet,
She's like,
yeah.
I also have pads. Every girl has been in this situation. We know how it is. And then but then her powers like shift and now they're in her hand. So she's like, you know what? I think I'm good. And she just like puts her hand in her pocket and, she's like, everything's just changing so fast. And Nakia thinks that she's talking about like puberty, like
Yeah,
growing up, like like everything that they're going through in high school. And she has this like beautiful monologue about how she talks about how she really like found herself and how she kind of didn't always feel in place. And we find out that she's biracial. She's like her one of her parents must be from, a Middle Eastern country, is raising her to be Muslim, and another parent is white. So now she's saying that she never really fit in with the white kids. She never really fit in with her Middle Eastern side of her family. And so when she started wearing her hijab, like she's, really started to truly find herself. Like she was like, when I put this on, I feel like me. And it was just, I felt like a very important and empowering moment to hear and listen and respect and all that. And I just I thought that was really beautiful. Good for Nakia. I'm glad
yeah.
she's getting like her own little arc this episode.
She's a great character. I really do like her. I think she's just very, very consistent.
So then we find out that Bruno gets called into Mr. Wilson's office, everyone's favorite guidance counselor,
The
and
best.
he tells him that he got into some sort of like pre-college program at Caltech where he's going to be going there for the rest of the semester, working on campus in the labs with, all the smart technology things. And, Mr. Wilson's stoked. He's like, this is a great opportunity for you. And plus, it's all paid for. And Bruno's kind of like, yeah, but now I have to go all the way to California. Like my friends and everyone, everything's here. Like I don't really want to leave, especially now he's probably thinking like, and now I gotta worry about this Comron guy. And he's gonna be stealing my girl the whole time I'm at Caltech. And Mr. Wilson goes into one of his magnificent speeches, and it's like, "Hey, you know that part of the movie where the actor or like the character gets told, "Hey, you want to be a Jedi or do you want to answer phones at this high-end fashion magazine? Well, this is your moment right now." So we do get a very blatant Star Wars reference. But for
And
those of
Devil
you who
Wears
didn't
Prada.
know, that's what I was gonna say. The other
Oh, yeah,
reference
sorry.
was a Devil Wears Prada moment,
Yep.
and he was like, "And I am your streak." And I just thought, I was like, this is not only reminding me of the Devil Wears Prada, obviously, but this also like reminding me of that Office episode where Michael Scott like takes on the persona of like the characters of the movies that he watches. So one
Yes.
day when he watched The Devil Wears Prada, he like just throws his jacket at Pam and is like, "Steak, where's my steak? call Amani. Where is he?" And she's like, "Do you want me to get you the company line?" Or like, it's
Yeah,
just very funny.
I'll admit this wasn't necessarily on the level of the Mulan lyrics. I think this was a little bit of a
Sure.
a little the writing was a little cringier, but still like it was funny. He's a great character. I like Mr.
Yeah.
Wilson a lot.
No,
I
I
hope we get more of him.
So then after school, Kamala and Kamran go on a little date.
Hmm.
They're sitting they're get grabbing a bite to eat, and they run into her brother and his fiance. And so to cover the fact that she's hanging out with just like a guy that she likes, she lies to her brother and says, "Oh, this is our cousin." And I was like, "This is kinda gross." I was like, "I definitely wouldn't be like, 'Oh, he is our family member,' because what if their relationship blossoms into something?" And her brother's like, "What are you doing with our cousin,
Well, I
Kamala?"
think it will, and that's I think that's what's setting up for is like that
Mm,
awkward moment. But I had to appreciate. I know I'm continuing on the Comron train. I appreciated how he went along with the bit. When he
sure.
was like, "You don't have an accent," he's like, or why do you have an accent?" He's like, "No, I was just trying,
I was yeah,
trying something out.
the Great
Trying to."
British Baking Show. I
Right,
love that
yeah.
show.
Yeah, and then he slipped back into what was, like, more of the stereotypical Pakistani accent, and I was like, "Wow, like, this is so interesting because it's like, this guy, like, he just met her and he's putting in the work, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I think that does show that he's legit, that he's not being shady or, you know, trying like, he's not fake about it, he's just, like he's just
sure.
genuine. He's just a genuine guy, and it was nice to see because it was like, oh, like, because he could have easily been like, wait, what? I'm not your cousin, what?" Or just been like, or like not knowing what to say. But he
Sure.
was totally chill about it, totally cool about it. Yeah,
I
I
don't
like
know,
that little
Dill.
scene.
I think you're, looking at Kamran and with some rose-colored glasses on, maybe.
I don't
I
know.
think that all is not what it seems, but
I don't know.
like I said, we'll get there. So this is where I heard the Eternals drop when they started talking about Kingo, like, "Oh,
Oh,
like,
never mind. Yeah,
is"
that's yes. I
um,
was wrong. I
all
switched things
good.
around in my brain, but still,
No,
my
the
point
same
my point
concept
stands.
though. They're
Yeah.
they're still talking about, the Bollywood stuff, and she's like, "Oh, my mom has a big crush on Kingo. Oh, well, my mom has a crush on Kingo Senior," and they're all Kamal and Donnie, so it doesn't matter. Um, and then okay, so now we're at dinner, and they're talking about their life before they moved to America. They lived in a place called Karachi, and they're talking about how the British left a mess. There was some kind of partition and a civil war, and it was just really not a great way of life. And
Hmm.
they find out that they're trying to get on one of the last trains out of the city. I'm sure to safety while Sana, aka Nani, was a little toddler, and she's trying to get on the last train out of the city with her family, and she just goes missing. She completely loses her father. No one knows how to find her. She's a little kid, so um all of a sudden she does end up on the last train with them, and they're like, "Oh my god, like, where did you come from? Like, how did you find us? Like, what's going on?" And we kind of get this little backstory moment about Nani and how she said, and I quote, "She followed the trail of stars back to her father." And it was just very unusual. And the entire time her dad is telling the story to um, the brother's fiance, the mother is in the kitchen just absolutely like she's reliving something. She's like,
Hmm.
"Oh my god, I hate this story because there's more to it than this." And she knows more than she's letting on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we kinda knew this earlier, like, in
yeah,
episode 1, we were like, she has a lot in her backstory that, like, I'm
yeah.
really excited for, to hopefully find out more of, because I really do like the characters in this family, like, they're all
Mhm.
very interesting personalities and have interesting stories.
Yeah, I agree. And so, upon hearing this story, the bangle starts glowing, and it seemingly like opens up like a portal to somewhere else. Like, Kamal is the only one that can see it, but the universe is kind of like breaking open, and she's seeing like this like huge like white light. There's like the earth and the furniture, her whole house is like shaking around her. And we see a brief second of like a woman standing in the light and like seemingly reaching towards Kamala. And it honestly reminded me of in WandaVision when we get that backstory of Wanda when she was first exposed to the Mind Stone, and she kind of sees the premonition of her as the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, huh, interesting. And so Kamal ends up passing out, and it was just very funny. Like her whole family is like surrounded by her. We're like seeing like like Kamala's point of view of her looking up at them, and her mom's
Mm.
like starts sprinkling some like I'm assuming some sort of like holy water, whatever the holy water adjacent is
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you know the culture in on her to like make her feel better. Her brother's like, oh my god, it's the evil eye, and like her dad starts saying something, then her brother starts singing some sort of prayer to make her feel better. It was just so chaotic. I was like,
It was
this
a
is
lot.
very fun. I was like, this is delightful. Um, and so she goes up to her room and finally she's like, I just need to talk to my grandmother about this because this things are getting out of hand here. And so she has this FaceTime call with her nanny and is like, hey, can you please tell me the backstory on this bangle because things are getting crazy. And she's like, oh, that bangle belonged to my mother. So your great grandmother, Aisha. And she's like, oh, like I shouldn't be talking to you about this. Like your mom would be mad. Like this is too much. Meanwhile, her dad's trying to get into her room and it's like, hey, like everything okay? And Kamala uses her powers to, keep the door shut. And
Hmm.
it was like a nice like touch of like her incorporating this
Yeah,
and like getting the hang of this, I thought.
right. In her everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah. And the entire time I'm listening to Nani talk about this bangle, I'm like, you think you would have been more careful about it if it really meant like a lot to you and your
Right.
family. Like you wouldn't have just like thrown it into a box and like shipped it to the other
Right.
side of the
That's a
world.
good point. Yeah. Like, why would it? Yeah. Why would it ever leave her sight? Or maybe she was haunted by it, but then the way she's talking about it doesn't seem like that's the case either. You know.
So now they're getting ready for some kind of festival called Eid. I Aid? Aid. It's something like that. Because when I first heard it, I thought that she was asking Bruno if like, "Oh, you're coming out to eat with us?" Oh, so maybe it's Eid. It's Eid.
Eid.
Okay.
There you go.
It's Eid.
Yeah. There you
Um,
go. Context clues.
because I was like, did she just ask him if she's going to eat with them? But then I watched it the second time with the subtitles, and I was like, oh, it's different. And so she's asking about her mom, about her great grandmother, so her mom's grandma, and is like,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's her story?" And she's like, "She brought shame on this family. I don't want to talk about that woman." And plus, during that whole train story we found out that the mother, like, no one really knows what happened to the
Yeah.
great
She disappeared.
grandmother.
Hmm.
She's gone. She went rogue. So
Hmm.
not to
Or
be
is that
confused.
just what their story is telling?
Right.
Because unreliable narrator, maybe there's a reason. Maybe their grandmother didn't and disappear, but that's like how they want to portray it because of something a little darker and more mysterious. I don't know.
So yeah, good point, Jill. I didn't mean to like jump to the next thought and like
No, no, it's fine.
destroy the thing.
I'm just always interjecting. You know, you're the recap girl. I'm throwing in useless
No,
commentary.
please, because it would not work if it was just me or if it was
Yeah.
just you. We're a team here
Yes.
at
Yes.
Marvelous Movie Mondays. So now we're at Eid, and their whole mission at Eid is for Nakia to rack up the votes for the mosque board. She's going
Yes.
around there, trying to get people to back her so when like the voting does happen, she has some interested parties in mind. And it was very fun how they went through like kind of all the different cliques in the
Yeah.
mosque. They were like
Yes.
the Illuminantes and like the Sunday
That
school teachers
was
and
funny.
the people who have converted to Muslim, but then they call them the reverts. And it was also just like a moment that reminded me of Mean Girls when
Yeah.
Janice Ian is like, here's everyone that sits in the cafeteria, and it's like the plastics, the jocks, Asian nerds, sexually active band geeks, the greatest people you ever meet. It was very fun. It
Yeah. Wow. You
took
just quoted that all word for word. Perfect. Good job.
yeah, I've seen that movie a bunch, as I'm
Yeah. No.
sure most
I have as
people our
well.
age have.
It's a
Yeah,
great rom com.
exactly.
My second
Exactly.
favorite 2000s rom com next to 13 going on 30. It's a masterpiece.
Yep, it truly is. Um, so now we cut to a scene of Zoe at the police station, and she's getting questioned by the two police or detectives rather that we met in the last at the end credit scene of the last episode.
Hmm.
And she's like, "Is this about the party? Because we really weren't that loud." And then the main guy comes in and is like, "Oh my god, like, you're Zoe. I'm a big fan of you. Like, we just wanted to ask you about like Avengers Con." And I was like, "Oh my god, they are totally good copping, bad copping her."
Oh
Like,
yeah.
they're buttering her up so she reveals some information, and then they're gonna use the whole intimidation tactic. And I was like, "Oh my god, this poor girl." Also, like, she's a minor. She should have asked for a lawyer or a parent or something.
But
Anyway,
again, she's a minor, so she maybe wouldn't know, to do that.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Which is not right. They should have made it aware to her, made it
Yeah.
abundantly clear that, "Hey,
Well,
you don't
yeah,
have to talk to us.
that's a very good point.
I know my rights. I hope I
Yeah.
never have I hope I
Good
never
for
have to
you, Kels.
utilize them,
No, but good for you for knowing your rights. Good
but
for you.
I know." And they're questioning her about the Avengers Con. They're trying to get to the bottom of, like, they're trying to get any sort of description so they can find out who Kamala is, and, so they can, I don't know, question her, recruit her to do something. I don't know. And this woman kind of sucks. I don't like her, and I guess that's kind of the point. Like, I'm not supposed to, but she was just grinding my gears in this scene. I didn't like her
She,
at all because she
yeah,
was like, "Was she Latina? Oh, I have to say Latinx now, don't I?" And I
yeah.
hate
It was a
that.
little racially charged. Yeah, a
It
little
was
bit.
super racially charged, and I hate when people say things like that because I'll give you another example. Like, I was at work the other day and, like, one of my coworkers, like, coughed and was like, "Oh, like, don't worry, it's not COVID." I feel like every time you cough now, like, you have to say it's not COVID. And I'm like, "Is that your big inconvenience from this whole pandemic? If that's the main thing you have to worry about, like, that is just so not like, put it into perspective, dude. Like, people died. People lost their lives or they
Yeah.
lost people close to them, and you're annoyed. You're annoyed now that you have to make this unfunny, unoriginal joke that you choose to make every time you cough. I'm like, so now when people say things like that, like, "Oh, I guess I can't say black people anymore. I have to say people of color." I'm like, why is that such an inconvenience to you? Like,
Exactly.
can you just like be a little respectful? Excuse me, respectful, just like a little
Hmm.
bit. Like,
Hmm.
it takes no time. It takes very little brain cells and very little time in your life to just, like, take the extra time and, like, be a decent human being.
Right.
Like,
Or at least if you
it's
make a
so
mistake
easy.
or if you fuck up, owning up to it and doing better the next time.
Yes, and
Which
educating yourself for
which
next
it's
time and
we've been
not
in this
just being
pandemic
like,
for a long time. We've been growing with this thing for now more than 2 years. Like people should know how to talk about it and discuss it and know when to joke, when not to joke, all that stuff about it. So
it just
um I will say though, Alyssa Reiner, who plays that role, she plays an equally annoying, frustrating character in Orange Is the New Black. So like
mm.
it was very fun to see her in this too. Because I'm like, she just fits that type so well. I'm sure
Is
the
she a
actress is.
cop in Orange Is the New
Um,
Black?
no, I don't believe so. She's one of the she's
Is
one of
she
the
an
people who like
inmate?
runs the no, runs the prison though. Like she's not a
Oh,
cop, but she's like one of the people who's like overseeing. I don't know the exact title. Hold on.
sure. I get what
Uh,
you're saying, though.
yeah, Natalie Figueroa. Um, I don't know what
Anyway,
her title is, but yes, continue because
that was my rant of the day because I was just like, I heard that and it just like it pissed me off so much. And I was like, I get what you're trying to do here, Disney. If you're trying to like evoke a response out of me, you did it.
yeah,
You
she's
succeeded.
she's a former executive assistant to the warden. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, she like runs
Sure.
the place. But yeah, no, I agree. It's like are they trying to make a commentary about shitty people like that, or are they
Sure.
trying
Probably.
to say, hey, lo, we know what to do. We call it Latinx, not Latino. Like, is that what they're trying to do? I don't know if this was like Disney, if this was embodying Disney, or if it was Disney's commentary of a different person being embodied. I don't know.
It just felt like they were like, "How can we write this person to be, like, the worst type of human
Okay,
being?" And
so it was
they just
intentional. Okay, good.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I think at
I'd
least.
like to believe that too. Yes.
So, then they regroup. They're like, "All right, she's not giving us any information, let's, like, have this fake conversation where we're like, we have to start going after the community centers and the temples and the mosques in order to, find this person." And now Zoe's starting to, like, So let me ask you a question, Dill. Do you think Zoe knows that it's Kamala? Or like,
Oh, that's a good
because
question. I
she
don't
was,
know.
I think, I have a prediction. I think that she like low key kind of knows. And she was really just biting her tongue in order to like not get Kamala in trouble or like
Yeah.
whatever it
I
was.
like to believe there's good in Zoe, so I believe, yeah, maybe she's trying to like not reveal her title. Also,
Yeah.
because if she gives up Kamala, then she can't be the cool Night Bright, Nightlight
Yeah.
or whatever it
Okay.
is.
So
So
yeah.
maybe it's like a double thing. Like, yeah, no, she doesn't
Uh-huh.
want Kamala to get in trouble, but also she's like, but she doesn't want to also give Kamala that credit or that fame.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but I just I feel like there's something good in her. Just like all these characters, I like to see the good and all.
Sure.
So I'm
Not Bruno
hoping.
though.
No, fuck him. No, I'm kidding. No, I see the good in Bruno. I liked Bruno episode 1. That's why I was so disappointed in this one. No, but I don't know. We'll see where Zoe's character goes. She's a very intriguing one. Her, Bruno, the mom, like those are the characters I really want to see a lot more of, like layering and fleshing out in the next few episodes.
So now we're back at Eid, and Kamala is like trying to get a you know, the backstory on her grandmother and her great grandmother, and she's talking with the Illuminatis because they're all gossiping to her, and she's like, "Okay, okay, you're all gonna vote for Nakia. That's great. Tell me more about my grandmother." And they're like, "Oh, like she brought some shame on your family," and she's like, "Okay, like what kind of shame are we talking here?" And one of them says she put a curse on everything she touched.
Mhm.
She had apparently she had multiple affairs, and one of them even says she killed a man dead. And I'm like, I want to get to know this great grandmother. I think she sounds like a good time to me.
It's a good
Curses,
time.
killing
All right.
men, having
Yeah. Okay.
affairs.
Yeah.
Ooh, she
Well,
sounds like spunky. I'm listen, I respect women's rights and I also respect their wrongs. And that's all I have to say.
there you go. That's a quote. That's a quote of the day. I expect their rights, but I also expect their wrongs. Yeah.
So now we have okay, so this is also another problem that I have with the episode, Dale, was because this is just like the stupidest way they wrote for someone to be in danger. Like, there were so many other things they could have done, but it's just
Yeah.
simply this kid needed to get this angle out of this high tower. He's in like a clock tower and he's hanging out the window using like Snapchat filters and he drops his phone and falls out the window. Now he's holding on for dear life onto a curtain.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so dumb. I can't.
You couldn't make it like a construction worker fell or something, or like, I don't know, someone was just like sitting on their window to smoking a joint and like fell. Like you couldn't make it something a little bit more
Yeah,
like realistic. Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, let me get this cool camera angle. Oh, I fell out the window. Like, all right,
I'm like, "Are you dumb? You must
yeah,
be dumb. You kinda
and
deserve to fall a little
and
bit."
this Eid festival, and apparently his parents were there, and like I don't even know.
Yeah.
It was a lot this moment.
This scene was like a mess,
Yeah, and it
and
went on way too long of her trying to
yeah,
get to him. It was like, "All right, you've been, like, walking on air for, like, 2 minutes. Like, get there, girl. He's
yeah,
gonna fall." And I get it, she's just trying to, like, explore her powers for the first time, but it's also like, uh, you don't wanna try the hand thing where you reach out your hand?
right,
That would've been my first instinct instead of trying to walk across air.
yeah.
She's still figuring that out, though, so I don't know. Maybe I
So,
shouldn't judge, but
she's getting her bearings. She's 16. Listen, she's trying her best.
yeah.
So, Kamala springs into action. She's, walking on the platforms that she's creating herself. She's, like, trying to distract the kid. She's like, "What's your favorite thing?" And he's like, "What?" It was kind of funny, but then it went on a little bit too long. I was over it. And she's like, what's your favorite food?" And he's like, "Ice cream pizza." And she's like, "Is that two things?" Like, and he's like, "No, I like to put ice cream on pizza." And then someone below the crowd, they get a quick shot of like, did someone just say ice cream pizza?
Which 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 is the most weird thing ever. Like, it
Yeah.
would have made more sense if he's like, "No, it's like a pizza, but instead of, like, cheese and sauce, they put on, like, hot fudge,
Oh,
and they put
sure.
on
Yeah.
vanilla and, like, scoops of ice cream and sprinkles, and it's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
dessert
Yeah.
pizza." No, but he's taken pizza, which is probably your plain old cheese marinara and putting ice cream on it. I'm like, is this a basil ice cream? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, ice cream on pizza? That's not even like a pregnancy craving thing. Like, that's not even pickles and peanut butter weird. That's just disgusting. I mean, I'm an
Yeah.
Italian who loves my ice cream, and I would never, I would,
It's
I would
really
fucking
repulsive to think
never put
about.
them together. Hey, if you like ice cream pizza, and I'm not talking about a dessert pizza. That's two different things. I've had dessert pizza. It's great. I've never
Mhm.
had pizza flavored ice cream, but if you've had ice cream on regular pizza, like your plain old Domino's, if you're putting a scoop of Haagen-Dazs on your Domino's, let me know because I don't think that exists. I don't think that ever happened ever.
No. No, absolutely not. Maybe we should try it one day, but we
I
should
don't
not.
want to. How about wait? Next podcast, not the next one because the next one's trivia, but the one after it. Let's do it. Let's just rip off
Wait,
the band-aid.
deal.
Let's have a piece of pizza, put a scoop of ice cream on it, and take a bite and see who lasts the longest without throwing up.
Wait, I have an idea. What if
We do it right now.
we no,
Oh,
ew,
okay.
no. First of all, I don't have pizza or ice cream.
I have
And
both.
second of all, what if we did like a poll podcast where we just like try different foods that were like showcased
Oh,
in
like
the Marvel
shawarma.
movies? Like
Yeah. Okay.
shawarma. Another one came to me. Oh, like the pizza balls from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
Okay.
Madness,
The
ice
lobster
cream
from
pizza.
WandaVision.
Um,
Right? Weren't they eating
oh
lobster
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when he
That
started
whole
choking?
dinner. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would
Um,
actually be really fun.
I
Let's
think
do
that'd
that.
be so fun. I think we
But
should
can we
plan for
yeah,
that.
okay. And ice cream pizza will be the last thing.
That'll be the last one. That'll be
We also have to
dessert.
try the sweat water that what's his name? Or the sweat beer that Gilgamesh makes.
The spit beer
Spit beer. I
where
always think it's when
he like
when we
chews
did
up
the
the
review
kernels.
when we did the review, I thought it was piss, and now I'm thinking it's sweat. It is spit. My
No, it's
bad.
spit.
Spit is a lot more manageable and easier recipe anyway. So
It's
nice.
the other liquid that we produce in our bodies. Um, sorry, it was like weirdly graphic for no
It's
reason.
okay.
Um, so
It's
she
alright.
catches him nonetheless. It takes her a few tries, but she ends up catching him. She, materializes some platforms for them to get to safety to the building. But as she's like, he's taking his final step to safety, and as this happens, the universe splits open again. She sees the woman a little bit more clearly now, and she like loses her. She gets distracted, loses it, and the kid ends up falling. And so she does use her like grab technique now. This time she tries to catch him, she just misses him. And now, more or less, she's kind of just aiding his fall. So it's not, it's not like he's
Yeah.
gonna crash land on the car. It's like he's like gonna hit this one,
This
then
was
this one, and then this one, and then now the only thing that's wrong with him is that he says like once he hits the car is my ankle.
this
So
was this was where I was wondering if crushed was in reference to his ankle.
okay, I had some different ideas for the title,
I
but
know,
I
I
also
know,
love
I
that one as
know,
well.
I know. It's probably talking about the crushes that Bruno has toward Kamala and Kamala has toward her guy. Like, I get that's probably where
Mm,
crushed comes from, or the fact
sure.
that Bruno is, he's crushed about this new relationship.
Yeah.
But I afterwards I was like, haha, that'd be funny if it was because of the ankle that got crushed. Because yeah, but again, I
Mhm.
don't think this is a bad thing. Like, she still saved this kid's life, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
I
she
mean,
still
yeah,
did I mean,
yeah.
like, yes, he has a broken ankle, but, like, it's better than death.
Sure.
So, like, I still
Sure.
think she comes across the hero here, and I think people should praise her because she literally saved this guy's life, even if she did it a little less gracefully. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and you know what? Not her fault. It was her first time that she really had to like
yeah,
I mean, I guess her first time was Zoe, but like the second time where like, she it was all very purposeful. Like when she was saving Zoe, it was all very accidental and she really probably wasn't even in
yeah,
charge of what happened, like she didn't know her hand was going to grow to that size. Like she was just doing the best that she could. But
yeah,
then this time around, she was like, okay, like let me try to do this and that and none of it was really working for her. So
yeah,
then she runs off, obviously feeling very bad, very, disappointed in herself. Like, as I felt this for her, when
yeah,
you make a mistake in front of an audience that almost like ruins someone's life. It's like, that's a very, really heavy weight to bear. So she's just trying to like compose herself in this alleyway when these drones find her. And I'm like, okay. And so now the drones start like chasing her down this alley. The police pull up. They found her some way somehow. I'm not sure. Um, but she's able to escape them. And while they're, while she's kind of on like the other side of this car, who pulls up? Kamran pulls up, and he's like, "Get in! Like I'm your getaway car now too." And so she hops in, and she automatically like reveals herself to him. She wastes no time like taking off her helmet, making it very obvious that it's like her. I guess
Mhm.
maybe she's thinking like he didn't see me use the powers, so he
Yeah.
doesn't know or something. But it was
Yeah.
just funny that she was like not trying to like hide anything about her, but she just immediately exposed herself. And then the woman she's been seeing in her, like, dreams, I guess,
Is in the
is
back of
sitting
the
in the
car?
back seat. And Kamran is like, "Oh, yeah, I want you to meet my mom." And she's like, "Oh, Kamala, I've been, like, meaning to meet you for a long time now." And that is when our episode
Cut to
ends.
black. Yeah. That is a very interesting ending because again, like,
A
people are
lot happened.
immediately gonna jump to, like, "Oh, Kamran's evil," or whatever, but I don't think that's necessarily the
Mm,
case. I just think he knows a lot more than he lets on,
mm,
and I'm interested to see this dynamic play out of, like, where that relationship's gonna go, who this woman is, what
yeah,
that whole relationship's gonna be like, and then just her exploring her powers more. I will say this episode in general, I just think the style the first episode was so like in your face about the style and it was so refreshing and fun. Here I think the style took a little bit of a back seat. Like there weren't
yeah,
as many moments where I was like, "Ooh, that's so cool. That's so interesting." There were a few moments, but like it wasn't as consistent as the first episode in that sense. But I just think the story itself, yeah, it's going in a direction where I think like it makes more sense. We're diving more into superhero stuff, but I do like a lot of that just like high school drama stuff. Like that's the kind of
yeah,
stuff I like the most. So I hope they continue with that even as
sure.
frustrating as it may be. But what are your thoughts on that ending and just this episode as a whole?
Well, here's the thing, Dill, is that here's my issue now with Kamran. It's like you loved him for being this like charismatic, charming guy, but now we kind of know that the only reason he was doing that was like maybe his mom was just using him to get to Kamala. Like, I don't think that all of his efforts now during the course of that episode were genuine because now it feels like I don't think that he's necessarily evil and they want to,
Mhm.
do something like they want to kidnap Kamala or anything crazy like that. I just think that now it's very clear now that the entire course of that episode he had an ulterior motive and it was to get Kamala to his mom. And so
Maybe.
now I'm like I'm even thinking that like Crush is even in the eyes of Kamala like, "Oh man, I thought that this guy was just like into me. Like I thought he
Yeah, I
just
don't know.
liked me for me now, but now like he's had this like agenda the entire time that I
Mhm.
didn't know about." So
Yeah.
that's my issue with
Okay.
Kamran. As
Yeah,
much as
that's a
I
good
wanna
point.
root for them and, like him, I'm like, "Well, this kinda sucks now." Like, it was
Yeah.
all like, their meeting and them getting to know each other was all very purposeful.
I
You know
think
what
it
I
was
mean?
still genuine though. Like I feel like I don't know, and it might be just the actor was that good that it was just came across so genuine and charismatic. Because she also Aman Vellani also comes across that way as
Mhm.
Kamala, just so charismatic and just completely honest and real. So I don't know, and that's an interesting question for later. I hope that's not the case, because I do like Kamran Kamala way better than Kamala and Bruno. But again, if they made Bruno more likable and less pouty little
Mm.
bitch, then maybe. But I just really I'm interested to see where that dynamic goes. I'm also interested to see what happens, like I said, with the mom, with his mom, and now with Zoe as well. Just how that goes. A little bit more of this good cop bad cop stuff to get on Kelsey's nerves. No, I'm just kidding. No, it'll be interesting, and I think this sets up some interesting stuff. I like how far we've gotten already with 2 episodes, which is something
Sure.
that some of the other series and especially the Star Wars series have lacked in. So,
But I will say though, I hope the rest of the episodes kinda take a breath because I feel like
mhm,
they just tried to pack, like, so much into this one that it,
right.
like it had the same feeling of, like, all these finales where they're like, "We need to tie up that loose end and that loose end
Mhm,
and then that we're gonna keep open-ended." And it just felt like, I just like a as a viewer,
yeah,
just, like, so much was getting thrown at me that I just feel like more like the episodes now going forward like take more time to like really flesh things out and like let things
mhm,
like let characters develop and relationships develop
yeah.
and all that stuff like
And if they
this
weren't
one like you said like the stylistic stuff like really took a back seat and it was just very like plot heavy And so there was a lot to take in. We learned about the grandmother. We learned like Nakia had her whole story going on. We met a whole new character. Like the police were more involved. The detectives were more involved in this episode. Like there's just so much to consume that I was like,
Yeah.
huh, it felt like work. It
Yeah,
felt a little bit like work watching this
I
episode.
almost wish they had made 7 episode series, because I believe this is going to be 6, and just had like the second episode been the like aftermath of the first episode plus the party, ending with the party and the drive back, and then the third one be then getting into the Eid festival and all that stuff, and that's where we
Mm,
can kind of explore a little bit more about the Bengal and stuff like that. Like I wish they almost kind of separated that, because it was like they had wanted to have both at once, and the thing is they can have both at once if they made the episode a little longer, but the fact that they are sticking to or generally around the same time for every episode, they want to like cram it. It feels a little crammed, like you said. So definitely a step down, but I still like it. I'm still enjoying it.
mhm,
I still positively recommend it. I think still it is refreshing just because it is such a younger perspective. We're seeing storylines that we don't normally see, even in stuff like Spider-Man: Far From Home. Like
sure.
those characters even seem a little bit more mature than these. So I like that dynamic. Is probably the highlight for me, and Mr. Wilson just being the scene stealer, of course. Um, yeah. So that those are my thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Cool. So that was our review for episode 2. Next week, as I alluded to earlier, we were taking a little bit of a break to do some trivia. But then the week after, we'll be back with episodes 3 and 4. So we're hoping it won't be too long of a podcast, just because we're covering 2 episodes. But these episodes have given us a lot to talk about, both positively and negatively. So that'll be exciting. Kelsey, anything exciting on your channel or anything coming to your TikTok or anything like that? Do you want to promote yourself? Anything exciting?
Sure, you could check me out on Instagram if you want. It's Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You could follow me on TikTok. I post more on TikTok than I do any other social media. So it's at cause13, KOZ13, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Cause Productions.
Very cool. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching Dill Pickle Movie Network, or if you're listening, go subscribe on the channel. Really, it helps if you follow both the podcast and the video, even if you only watch one or the other or listen to one or the other. It just helps us grow. We really, really, really want to boost subscribers by this last stretch of the year. We're halfway through the year. We really want to like double the numbers we have now, just because we put a lot of time into this. Kelsey puts a lot of time into this. Matt, Chad, Crosby, Zach, everyone who works on this channel puts so much time into it. So I really want to award them by just giving them more viewers and more listeners, and eventually monetization. But for now, just enjoy us, spread the word, like us, subscribe to us. Talking as if we are, the things you're subscribed to, not the channel. But yeah, Dylan_Randazzo at Twitter and Letterboxd if you want to check me out there. And Dylan Randazzo 417 at TikTok. Lots of exciting stuff. I'm trying to post a little bit more every now and then, maybe some singing videos and cooking videos if I can, if I have the time.
Hell
But
yeah.
what time do I have? But yeah, next week will be more trivia. I will not announce the competitors because I still need to figure out scheduling for that. But we will have trivia for you next week, even if it's 2 competitors you've never heard of. We will have that for you, and we're very, very excited. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.